Alright, so we got two Nintendo DSi consoles here. We're having an issue. There's an issue with both of these. One of these has a broken cartridge slot. Everything else works great. And the other one has missing components which prevent the system from reading the Wi-Fi card. So this thing, it'll boot, but it can't read the BIOS properly, and so even if you try to go to system settings or whatever, um, you just get nothing. So I figure between the two, I know this cartridge slot is working, but it's missing components. It'll be far easier. Well, I suspect it'll be far easier to move the cartridge slot over. Let me think about this for a second. I'll be right back. So I think I have decided I do want to move the cartridge slot over just because I'm deducing this. Work has been done on this board. Components have been removed. To me, that's not a good sign for this board, like if the CPU is bad or something like that. I don't want to spend more time working on this than I have to. I'm going to put the rear casings aside. I'm going to get both of these main boards out, and we're going to just get this cartridge slot off, and we'll have to do both, and then we'll move over the good one. This one has a broken pin, so I'll remove the boards and I'll be right back. All right, so I've got both of the boards out. I think I've got kind of a good situation here. It's interesting. So I think what I'm going to do, this good board, I know power's on, it just doesn't read the cartridge because it has a broken pin. I'm going to use low melt solder to get this off. And then on this board that is no good, I think what I'll do, well, I might do the same thing. I'm thinking about doing hot air, but I don't want to ruin anything. I'm thinking if I do hot air, I'm not really worried about damaging anything else. But I think what I'll do, just to make sure that I don't melt any plastic in the port, is just use low melt solder on both. Now that I'm saying it out loud, that makes more sense. And then we'll get the port swapped over. Okay, so we'll remove the bad one first. Be right back when I have this set up on my board holder and my iron hot. Alright, let's get a close up here. It's got, this cartridge slot has little legs underneath. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put some flux down. If I can find my plunger, there it is. Alright. I'm going to mix in the low melt solder with the factory solder. And what that'll let me do is remove these legs with a lot less force. I think I'll lift these ones up first, or we'll try to get as much solder off as we can. Then we'll focus on the back legs. I think I'm going to try something different with the low melt. I'm going to cut a small piece off, and I'm going to hold it in place with some tweezers. That way I'm not using too much. So you can see the little icicle. Let me turn my, there we go. I'm just heating it up so it all mixes in. Okay, let's go to this other one and do the same thing. That worked out. Okay, let's pull this around. I think what I'm going to kind of do is I'm going to kind of heat it up from the back with the iron. I'm going to pull lightly to kind of leverage it up. See if that works. It did lift up a little bit. Let me do the other side. I'm going to kind of go back and forth until it's free. Okay. I think I'll do a little more. I don't want to bend anything. But once I get these up, I'll get the back legs up. And I'll have some extra space. So you can kind of see there's a gap there now between the board and the holder where there wasn't before. I'm not using a lot of force either, just light. Okay. I'm going to do the low melt solder on the back legs. This is going to be a little more tricky. I think those pins are going to be especially important. So let me put this on the holder now. I'll be right back. Alright, so here's the pins on the rear side of the connector. Do the same thing. I'm just going to add flux along all of them. This will help it mix easier. I'm coming with the low melt. I need to be really careful because there's those small components there. Let me try adding some to my iron. I'm going to come in and mix it in. I just need to be really careful of all these resistors. And on this one, I don't need to worry about cleanup. Just need to make sure I don't get any low melt on those components. I'll do a little more. And I think my biggest thing is this: I don't want to rip any pads off. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to scrape over the pins to get them kind of molten. I'm going to then put the iron on this rear joint. You'll see it over here. So let's see. I'll show the joint. Let's do that. So I can get a little further back. So I'm going to scrape along the pins, and then I'll come and heat up that side. So let's see how that goes. All right. Right. I'm going to turn this around and do the other side. Now this is going to be a little harder because I'm not left-handed. And there's a big bump there. And it looks like there's like a double pin. Let me come back. I need to think about how I want to do this. All right, I figured out what I want to do. Because I didn't see these side pins, let's see if I can show you here. Not only is there a leg holding this down, but there's also two more pins that come out the side. I'm going to add low melt solder to these, as well as the front legs. Having low melt solder everywhere, and then I'll use some hot air. It shouldn't need to be hot enough to melt the plastic, and I can be a lot quicker about it. So let's do that now. Turn my air filter back on. Adding flux. And low melt solder on my tip. Same thing on these pins. Okay, let me go to the other back leg. It's going to be hard to see it. That's okay. Well, just mixing it in by heating the whole thing. All right. Now I'm going to get my hot air. I'm just going to put it at 250. Let's see if we can pull it off. I'll start at 300. I'm going to set my airflow to maximum. I'm going to go a little hotter. And try 345. I got the left side up, so let's try this other side now. There we go. All right. No ripped pads. Good job, me. Let's see, did I melt any plastic? No, no melted plastic. It looks great. Okay, so I think that low melt solder is the way to go. Let's come in closer and we'll clean this up. All right, I got my board here, getting some wick out. I see these filters down here, so I just need to be careful when I'm wicking away this solder. These should clean up really nicely, no problems. And I'm only touching it for a second. My iron is at about 400 Celsius, just so I can be touch and go. I don't want to be sitting for too long on heat on the pads, because then you start to rip stuff off. It doesn't have to be perfect. We just want enough to be able to lay the replacement port down flat. That's a big ground pad. It's nice to have it clean, but you know, if anything does happen to this pad, it's pretty simple fix. All right. That looks good. Let's go to the front leg here. Looks great. This is the one where the legs actually go through. So having that completely clear is really nice. Great. And last one, I don't know if there's anything on here. It's pretty clean. I didn't rip it off, so I'm just going to leave that one alone. Okay. So we're all cleaned up, ready for the new port. I mean, I am going to clean this off with some alcohol and whatnot, but... All right, we'll be right back. I'm going to go ahead and remove the port off the other board, the same method I did with this one. It's a good testing ground to just make sure that it is, in fact, possible to get it off with the low melt solder without damaging any of the plastic. And I'll be right back. All right, so I'm not going to be utilizing the full force of gravity because I don't want to rip any pads. But I'm going to just lift it up just a little bit so the board is tilted at an angle. I'm going to start with heating up the pins. Come around to these legs. This other side as well. All right, I think I got both of the front legs off. That's good. Let me make sure there's none of this low melt solder on the tweezers, so it's not getting in the port. And let's go ahead and get this back side off. All right. It's smoking, just from the flux. Nothing's melted. Everything looks good. There's the part. Ooh. It is hot. I'm not going to worry about cleaning up this board because it's just going to be for parts, so I'm just going to put that aside for now. Let's go ahead and clean up this part, and we'll transplant it to the board. Let's get a little closer. These might be pretty clean already. Let's just see if there's any ridges. You know what I think I could do? I could probably just use my iron. It's not hot enough yet. Let's come in again. Great. Do a little leg here. Beautiful. How about these ones? There's a lot here. Let's clean this up. All looks good. And there's some on this front leg. I'm going to clean those up and then we'll move it over. All right, time to put the replacement port. Let me actually clean this up with some alcohol first, so we have a nice clean base. Just want it to be nice and clean for our new port. Don't want any flux getting in our new port. Come and clean around these legs especially. That looks great. Those clean paths. All right. Let's drop this in place. There's the two legs in the front that should kind of snap in. Looks flush against the board. These pins might have got bent up a little bit. Let me just bend them down just a tiny bit. All right, I'm going to go ahead and tack this leg down. Just going to press on top. That cool. do the other side. I'm going to do the same thing. Press down. Let's see if I can get a better angle on this. I'm going to have to kind of press it together. I have to kind of sandwich it together. We know it might work better if I kind of come in. I need to kind of leverage it so it's coming. There we go. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to add some solder there. Just a little bit. I want it to connect. Doesn't have to be perfect. Now I'm going to come with my tweezers, and I'm going above the board and under the board. And I need to be able to push this together and then hold. There. Solid. Let's see. Pins are all lined up. The back side's completely flush against the board, meaning that all these pins should be making contact. Let's go ahead and take care of these pins. I'm going to add some flux, just a little bit. I have this little tiny bit of solder. It's going to flow between. Just going to make nice joints on each one. I think this design's a lot better than like the DS Lite. The DS Lite, they put the card reader on top of the CPU. So if anything happens there goes your, you got to take the cartridge slot off to even look at it, see what's going on. Sorry, I'm just getting another piece of solder. I realize now that after all these videos, I'm still saying solder instead of solder. Or maybe I go back and forth. Oh well. That's how it looks like it's spelled. Does anyone really care? All right. We'll flip this around. Get a better angle. To come in with the pointed end, so I don't touch anything else here. cool. Let's add some more here. Nice. Let's check that other leg. I think the other one was fine. Add a little more. Looks great. All right, just gonna flip it over and do the legs, and we'll clean up and test. All right, so I reassembled, and I'm gonna put the battery in the right way so I don't blow a fuse. Let's see. All right, got power. So on the one with the missing components, I couldn't launch into anything. Let's see if this gets recognized. Oh no. So what happened there? What happened there? It's shutting off when I put a game in. Let me take it apart and take another look. Okay, so I figured it out. There was one resistor that I accidentally touched, and there was solder bridging it. It was just such a thin layer that I didn't see it. Let's test it out. It's working. All right, so we have a fix. Good to go. I do have some more plans for this DSi. Cartridge slot works great. And I can just point out, it was one of these small resistors. You can probably see some of the leftover. R25 was bridged. And so when I put the game in, it bridged these two pins, shorted out, and that's not supposed to happen. So it was just clearing that off, just touching it with the iron, and it's good to go. All right, so that's it for this fix. I will be doing more with this DSi, and I got this donor board now for future DSis. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more.